And Talk with America's Mayor is just about to get ready. And I'm America's Mayor. So you're going to get to talk to me, but we've got lots of guests tonight. And of course, it is a big night. I'd say a sad night because we're going to pass a point tomorrow. Well, we've passed a point a long time ago. It's just going to be obvious to the whole world that we do not any longer have an equal system of justice, or a system of justice in which people are treated equally, which means we're no longer really a country of laws that we can count on. If you're a Democrat, you can get away with anything. You can destroy 33,000 emails. You can lie. You can commit perjury. Apparently, you can take $31 million from China. You can take $8 million from the Ukraine. Nobody cares. If you're a Republican, you get capital punishment for jaywalking. And probably you didn't even jaywalk. They made up a phony film of you jaywalking. Remember the first charge here, because it tells you everything. First charge was Russian collusion. We now know the answer. So it was false. It was untrue. It was paid for. $1.1 million at least. Who paid for it? Hillary Rodham Clinton. Hard to even say it, right? Hillary Rodham Clinton paid for it. And it was completely made up by Mr. Steele, known as the Steele dossier. Meanwhile, she was colluding with Ukraine. And for 5 years, they pushed that, and it cost our taxpayers $40 million. And 3 times they proved it was untrue. 3 times. 3 times they proved it was totally untrue. So what were they doing for 3 or 4 years? Same group of people. They're trying to frame Donald Trump. I could give you plenty more examples of that, right? That's what they're doing now. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Except now what they have is they've got a stumblebum prosecutor, a disgrace, a slob, who is a plaything of George Soros, like 50 other prosecutors are. Cities are going to hell in America. People are getting killed left and right, many of them young black children, because of Soros and because of the DAs who let the criminals out of jail. Bragg is one of the worst. A lot of blood on his hands. He doesn't prosecute cases. When Bob Costello went into the grand jury, 8 of his assistants were in the grand jury because there's nothing to do. They don't prosecute criminals. Criminals are to be protected, let out so they can throw you on subways, hit old people in the head, beat the living daylights out of kids with Alzheimer's. That's about in about 3 days that all happened. That's Bragg. And he's bringing this case, and this case is completely phony. And it's going to happen tomorrow, and the whole world is going to see that we have a fascist system of justice. That is not good for anyone, Republican, Democrat, liberal. If you don't see the danger here, there's something wrong with you. So, our first guest.
That's right, Mayor. We have joining us this evening, Caitlin Sinclair, OAN's New York correspondent. Of course, she's been covering this from the very beginning, and the Trump post-presidency as well.
The one in New York. I mean, and particularly the case, this long, winding investigation.
Yeah,
it's been going on forever in New York, right?
Why don't you
right?
Yeah.
Why don't you share more about yourself, Caitlin, with our audience, our growing audience here on America's Mayor Live?
Well, let's see. I am a 5th-generation New Yorker, born and raised on Long Island. And yes, I've been with One American News for over 3 years now, just here in New York correspondent, as you said. So let's see. I've been through a lot here in New York. Changeover from Clown de Blasio to now Mayor Adams. And we have been boots on the ground, Mayor, covering what we've witnessed over the past 2 weeks, which is heavy media presence.
Yeah, this is probably the story, the international story, right? I would imagine.
There has been media from all over the world I spoke to today that came here to cover what we were witnessing and what we will witness tomorrow. So Yeah, yeah, and you heard Mayor Adams. What really stood out to me from the entire day, what I just thought about it, was Mayor Adams' speech. I don't know if you caught that,
Tell me.
but he actually held a presser today.
No, I
He
didn't hear the one today.
so he called on Trump supporters to, quote, "control yourselves." That was his warning ahead of what is a planned protest tomorrow. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene will be in town and she'll be attending that protest or rally, is what they're calling it. So the mayor's warning to the congresswoman and to Trump supporters was control yourselves. And you look at this mayor who he can't control his own city.
Right. It doesn't, crime is up, what, 27, 28%. There's more crime now than when de Blasio was mayor. Nobody even thought that was possible, that you could have a worse mayor than de Blasio, or at least a mayor that is presiding over a city with more crime.
Mr. Nightlife. I don't know if I consider him a mayor, but
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. He doesn't he was a policeman when I was the mayor.
Mhm.
I never remember him making an arrest.
So can
He was a policeman who didn't make arrests.
what kind of message does that not only send to Trump supporters, but New Yorkers?
Well, I think Trump supporters are aware of the fact that that's a phony. The people who do the violence of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, again, biggest sponsor, George Soros.
And this is the
And
city and the mayor that allowed Antifa to run wild, allowed our cities to burn down under Democrat mayors in New York City. I mean,
Well,
I was
yeah,
out there
yeah, it was.
covering the Black Lives Matter protests. There there was no warning to these people because of course you can't tell them to stop.
You see all the crimes that take place now, where people go into retail stores, large numbers, they rip everything apart and they take everything out and nobody does anything. That is learned behavior.
Right.
They learned it in 2020. That's what they saw on television, 80 different places all over the country. And the police officers were turned into, rather than people who deter crime
Mhm.
or arrest criminals, observers.
Right.
They were learned observers of crime. And it was the minute I saw it happen, I said, this can become a problem because criminals learn behavior. I mean, that's why punishment works. It deters them.
I said this on
The
air
lack
the other
of
day.
the lack of encourages them.
People thought I was joking when I said that you actually can't go to the store right now and buy toothpaste. Everything is under lock and seal because of how rampant crime is in New
That's
York.
ridiculous. Toothpaste.
And yet this is what our district attorney, this is what the Democrats want to focus on here in this city. And people thought I was kidding, but you really genuinely cannot go buy toothpaste at the store right now.
So before before I got involved with President Trump in the 2016 campaign, I ran a security business all over the world, and I can't tell you how many banana republics, Latin American countries, I did crime reduction, and it is typical if you go into their stores that everything is under lock and key. So I'm thinking of a particular terrible neighborhood in Brazil, in which there'd be 3, 4 murders a day, and we had to buy something, and I've forgotten what it was. It was like just toiletries
Mhm.
for the night,
And how
and
sad is that?
and then I just think at that time I don't think I ever would have thought. And I saw that in other countries, particularly in South America. I don't think I'd ever would have thought it was going to happen in New York at that time. Was the safest large city in America. It had been that way for 20 straight years. I really thought you couldn't change that. It
And
was naive and stupid because Democrats can ruin anything and everything, and they do. Look, they've been in charge of Chicago for 50 years, and they're going to be in charge of Chicago again, whichever way it goes.
So, Mayor, because you didn't catch
There's no hope.
Adam earlier, he actually continued to say that New York is the safest city in America. You can imagine the reaction that he got from that.
Yeah.
I don't know how honest the media was covering this. And something else I noticed being boots on the ground for the past 2 weeks down at that courthouse, the media is so desperately trying to spin this. Some of the networks
Trying to spin the prosecution.
they're trying to spin, we've had supporters come out. They're trying to spin what we're looking at tomorrow as far as a peaceful rally, a peaceful protest. They so desperately want this sort of January 6th 2.0. They want something to happen. They're almost enticing people to go out there and get violent. And it really seems like that's what they're waiting for. Yet I don't believe that's what's going to happen. This is not the party of getting violent and burning down your cities and jumping on police cars, starting fires, starting riots. So I've noticed that in a lot of their coverage, that's what they've tried to spin even the New York Young Republicans as these
Mhm.
extremists. And tomorrow, from what I've heard, is going to be quite peaceful.
Well, they have to be very, very disciplined because there will be provocateurs who are expert at it in the crowd. There'll be Antifa people, there'll be Black Lives Matter people, there'll be people that are paid to do
Mhm.
this. If you go back and you look at the text messages before January 6th, there's plenty of evidence of Antifa people being encouraged to come and disrupt the rally. I mean, it's in writing,
Mhm.
but of course the committee ignores it. Uh, there's even a text afterwards saying there were about 250 Antifa people in the January 6th, but the only group that exceeded that was the FBI. I mean, between Antifa and the people who were disruptors, who hated Trump, and the FBI, there were right-wing people that did things that were criminal and wrong, but I think they were outnumbered.
But we can't even count on anyone in Congress to differentiate that for us, and we don't even have the rest of that footage.
No, it's all being hidden. It's all being hidden, and if any of it was helpful to them, they leak it. They
Right.
leak everything else. If there's anything helpful, it's like the manifesto of the murderer of the 3 children in Nashville and the 3 teachers. The manifesto is very damaging. Otherwise, it'd be put out.
Yeah, look, we're over a week.
I mean, we live in a 1984 world. CBS has instructed their reporters not to mention that the murderer is transgender, and the police commissioner has said that might be a factor. So the public should be informed of that. I mean, it's not. It's nobody's maliciously making up the fact that she's
It's the facts.
transgender.
What happened
It
to
is a
to
fact.
journalism 101.
Yeah, and she was under medical help for what they say are emotional
Mhm.
disturbances.
So
Eh,
speaking of leaks, one of the questions our viewers kept asking over the past few days is whoever leaked this information, presumably from the DA's office,
Has to be the only one who knew.
will they be held accountable?
No, of course not. They won't even look for them. Are they ever held accountable? Were any of Mueller's people ever held accountable for all the leaks they did? And then the press wrote, "Oh, they were remarkably tight, remarkably tight." I knew everything went on in the grand jury, not because I was there, because I read it in the newspapers. It was very helpful as his lawyer, but they were leaking everything. They must have leaked every 3 weeks that they were going to indict Don Jr. I think they did that to irritate him, to get him upset. But that's an illegal leak from the grand jury. No, I mean you're absolutely right. The leaking of this could only have come from, well, I guess it could be the DA, the grand jury itself. It,
And the grand jury, speaking of, they've also been leaking throughout this entire process.
oh yeah, like
From-
that, like the one at
But this is all supposed to be done in secrecy, and they're the ones that have been giving the media little pieces of information.
yeah, which I mean should eventually lead to the dismissal of the indictment because it's a completely lawless grand jury, and it's been a completely lawless process. I mean, there are any number of reasons why this case should be dismissed. The misdemeanor that they're charging is entering false records. There's no proof that he ever entered a record. He doesn't enter. I mean, I've known Donald Trump for 35 years. I've never seen him entering records in accounting books, nor have I seen CEOs of companies ever do that. Somebody else entered that record, and this is a non-disclosure agreement, not that kind of a business record. So it doesn't apply at all to the misdemeanor. Doesn't apply. Second, if you don't just have the misdemeanor, it's barred by the statute of limitations, which is only 2 years. Then
7 years ago, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's gone. So he attaches it to a felony that he says is illegal campaign contributions. Problem with that is the Federal Election Commission says it isn't. Most of the law review articles say it isn't. The Mueller people said it isn't. And finally, it's a federal crime. And I don't know where the hell he gets the jurisdiction to indict a federal crime.
After the feds already said they
Yeah.
wouldn't pick this up. His predecessor, Cy Vance, walked away from this case.
Away from it originally until this guy Pomerantz unethically wrote a book about the grand jury proceedings. Think about that, right?
I say it's the Democrat machine, right? It's Bragg is being used as a pawn almost, and these orders for viewers. The
I wouldn't be
orders
surprised if he got a call.
Yeah, from above. The
Yeah.
is how I refer.
I would say that he could easily have gotten a call from like Nancy Pelosi or one of those people, but who thinks that he has to prove his innocence. In fact, I want to do a big statue of her. Lady Justice, except it'll be Nancy Pelosi, who has a face where it has no original body parts.
Yeah.
So we'll do.
Maybe they changed the Constitution. I don't know. I didn't read that.
So she should be standing there with the scales of justice like this, and then a big sign: "You must prove your innocence." And then below that, it could say, "Oh, Joseph Stalin and Nancy Pelosi," or Mao and Nancy Pelosi, or Adolf Hitler and Nancy Pelosi. One of those.
Yeah.
They all agreed with her. You have to prove your innocence. That's what happened.
Monuments and statues. So maybe
Yeah, well, that one we'll put up. We'll put that up, and that'll be the new motto for America: prove your innocence. Not a slip, not a slip of the tongue. That's precisely what this is about. They assume he's guilty. They make things up, and by and large, they are. It's uncanny. They charge him falsely with what they actually did. So Hillary charged him and paid for Russian collusion. False. She did Ukrainian collusion illegally. Now, how about this? Hillary, in doing that, violated the laws that he's trying to prosecute. So she paid $1.1 million for a Steele dossier. What was the Steele dossier? It was Oppo research. It was negative research on her opponent.
That they paid for.
Yeah, which is a campaign contribution. But even worse than that, it was entered as legal fees, which is a false entry, which makes it a felony, if it is a felony. So why the hell is she not being prosecuted? First of all, it's a lot more money. It's a lot more serious. The other is a personal matter. How about her husband? Her husband's personal matter was a heck of a lot more serious than this. If you don't believe Trump, and I do, if you don't believe Trump, in 2006, he had a one-night stand with a porn queen, totally consensual. 2 adults, totally consensual. And then he paid her money so that she wouldn't say anything about it because he just had a kid, didn't want the embarrassment, didn't want the fact that he was running for office is true. But the Edwards case, he was acquitted because he paid the woman money to protect his family and also to protect his candidacy. And if there's a personal reason for it, it's not a campaign contribution.
Don't Americans feel like, why can't we just keep government out of the bedroom? Why do we have to bring government into such private aspects of life?
I don't mind keeping it out of the bedroom. We have to keep it in the Oval Office, and Bill Clinton was getting all the sex in the Oval Office. Bill Clinton did not confine it to the bedroom, and he was doing it with a young, impressionable, obsessed woman who he was taking advantage of. If it did happen, and I don't think it did, Stormy Daniels was hardly a naive, obsessed woman. She was a professional, well, whatever you want to call it.
Film star.
Well, there are a lot of things that people call her. I don't know how true they are, but she certainly was she was certainly a porn star, which would make her rather knowledgeable about things like that. I don't think Stormy Daniels was shocked or overcome. She's never claimed that it was anything but consensual sex.
So New Yorkers that I've been talking to, and you know the demographics here in New York, but they don't even see this as a red versus blue issue anymore. So many New Yorkers were so shocked to understand that it is our tax-paying dollars that were being used for this case, that were being used for the charade that we saw up and down Fifth Avenue today. And it is our tax-paying dollars that will be used tomorrow for the circus that will be at the downtown Manhattan.
Well, so it also means it'll just be 10 other cases that he dismisses. And one of them will probably throw somebody in a subway or beat up an old lady or beat up a kid with autism. Or, I mean, the havoc that this bum of a prosecutor has released on New York is outrageous. I mean, you can directly trace it to people he lets out of jail. And then they beat the living daylights out of somebody. Look, when he came into office, he took the oath of office, and then he said, I'm not going to prosecute armed robbery, or I'm going to drop it down to a misdemeanor. Armed robbery.
52% of felons.
52% of felonies have been dropped to misdemeanors or dropped completely, which means that the police department of the city of New York, which is probably the most skilled in the world, is wrong 52% of the time. In other words, they're overcharging 52% of the time. I doubt it. I doubt it. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, crime is up under this guy. There's more crime in the city. And not only that, fear is up because he not only enables people to commit crimes, he makes them very bold. They know they're going to get away with it.
Yeah. Have you been in these CVS's or a Walgreens at the moment where someone's robbing the store? The people that work there, the employees just stand there. And I've had conversations with them like, do we not do anything anymore? And they say no.
The owners order them not to do it.
Because there's a certain amount that you're apparently allowed to rob a store and get away with it.
Also, I mean, look, most of the owners are businessmen and women. And if the employees started getting beaten up, it'd cost them a lot of money.
Yes,
because they'd all sue the owners.
The joke is that
it's not necessarily because they're so kind all the time.
Oh no.
Yeah, but if 4 or 5 employees got killed, there'd be wrongful death actions.
It's a little bit above their pay grade, I'm assuming. But the joke now is that the former president tomorrow maybe can smash some windows in a store, grab some handbags, and he'll be released right away.
Who?
Yeah, because that's
one.
Trump.
Oh, I thought you were saying Clinton. Clinton would be. Jonathan Turley had a great headline in his article in the Post yesterday. He said if Trump stuck somebody up with a gun, Bragg would let him go free.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what you should do. You should hold somebody up, and Bragg will give him a medal. I mean, it is very, very sad that this has happened, but it's the natural consequence of what they've been doing since pretty much the day he announced. And
this was a campaign promise. I've been trying to remind all our viewers of that. This was a campaign promise, which makes this case even a little bit more unique when you're looking at a potential gag order tomorrow. Again, a prosecutor that campaigned on taking down a former president. And again, we believe
just unnoticed by the Bar Association.
Right.
But I have a particular grievance with the Bar Association because they've suspended me for being a danger.
We know, yes.
They've suspended being a danger of causing a riot. And they ignore the fact that that Benny Thompson sued me for that. And the judge dismissed the lawsuit. And it's an Obama judge saying there's no evidence of it. But that's not enough for the Bar Association to drop the case. Right. But what about the Attorney General and the DA running as if they're I'm gonna get Trump? That's not a prosecutor. I mean, that's some kind of a bounty hunter.
Letitia James too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They're the Attorney General, and she should be disbarred. He should be disbarred. He should be disbarred when he said, "I'm not going to prosecute. I'm not going to prosecute armed robbery. I'm not going to prosecute resisting arrest," which, by the way, is beating up a cop. Mm-hmm. Every cop in the city would have been fair game if he continued to insist on that. He eventually changed it, although still he drops a lot of them. Drops a lot of them.
Such a recruitment.
Those are a lot of those are in that 52%. He says he dropped it, but he took the oath of office and then he turned around and said, "I won't. I swear to uphold the law." Then he turned around and said, "Only half of them." When he just violated the oath of office. It's not a joke.
Look at Kathy Hochul here a little bit. I mean, Lee Zeldin.
Kathy who?
Kathy Hochul, our governor.
Here,
yeah, she is. It's hard to believe because she doesn't quite govern. Lee Zeldin said his first day in office, one of his top priorities would have been to remove Alvin Bragg for those exact reasons. And you have to look at Hochul here. I mean, under the Constitution.
Given to us by Andrew Cuomo.
Even Andrew Cuomo.
Emmy winner. Andrew Cuomo.
Yes, he handled the
pandemic. Who, by the way, before people say he was better than her, he passed the bail law. he passed the and helped to get it passed. He passed the lower the age law. He passed a law that requires prosecutors to do discovery in what 18 days, which has about half the cases getting dismissed he passed all these laws because even before she came along, I used to say between De Blasio and Cuomo, they got about 7,000 people on the street that I would have had in jail. So Cuomo is a big, big factor
Oh yeah, and
in the crime on the street. She at least is making an attempt feebly to try to change it. Don't know if it's for real. Adams, of course, talks and does nothing. Adams could have gotten a change when he first got elected.
I think New Yorkers had a lot of faith in him. I think
Yeah,
he put a lot
if he had used that a political credit that he had then,
Yeah.
and she was running for office and threatened her and said to her, I won't support you if you don't get it changed."
Mhm.
She'd have gotten it changed. That'll put a fire under. But she's got to hang on to the job, so she and her husband finally get paid off. You know, the bribe that they got for the stadium
Buffalo
in
Bills.
Buffalo. I mean, he's on the he's one of the people that owns the concession company that's going to make millions.
Well, she's been quite quiet on all of this happening in her state of
Yeah,
New York.
I mean, she's as crooked as they come.
Even Andrew Cuomo came out and called this political.
Even Andrew Cuomo.
Even Andrew Cuomo himself.
Yeah, well, there were no old people around, so you know.
That's right. And we have a very active chat. We have thousands of people in our live chat. So, as we like to ask, comment below. Let us know your name and where you're tuning in from. We love to read off where people are tuning
what do
in
you
from
have?
all
Do you have
across the
anything good?
country. We have a lively chat tonight, Mayor. Comment below. Let us know who you are and where you're tuning in from.
Yeah, so Lynette Ferguson says that the left will make sure to send in people. He erases it on me to disrupt things.
No, I'm not
Just
it's
like
moving.
they always do.
It's the chat is moving in real time, Mayor.
Lynette is
Well, you called it.
is right.
They'll have people posing.
And Paulette says that Trump will be a 2-term president. And somebody from the Jersey Shore, red-handed nude on the pool table at the wedding. Why?
I don't know, but we love our Jersey folks.
No, this is okay. This
is people tuning in from all over, Mayor. Greetings from Brazil. We have Long Island, South Carolina.
Notice Biden supporters watch any of whatever.
It's moving too fast, Mayor. We have thousands of people in the chat.
I think that
I gotta go take a course in speed reading.
Yeah, we cannot keep up. The comments keep coming in. We will be sure to highlight where
Can
some
you
of our
stop one and read it? Can you stop one and read it? Maybe you could lasso it.
We can stop. We can go in live to these locations here on the side. Again, if you're watching
Jersey Shore, I saw that Ward in West Virginia.
We got West Virginia,
Ohio. I see that. Scotland. Yeah.
Nantucket, Massachusetts, Ohio, Virginia, Nebraska, Michigan.
Get a lot of Australia.
Delco. Is that Delaware County? Yeah. Amsterdam tuning in. Minnesota.
Did you think it was a little much following the airplane in? I was doing my show. I do a show between 3 and 4 on ABC, and there are television monitors all over the place, right? So they have everything on. So there's MSNBC and CNN are right here to my left, and all of a sudden I'm looking at it, and there's an airplane on. This must be about 3:30, maybe even before that. It's way up in the air. And then I could see the second one was a better shot. I saw it was the Trump plane.
They covered.
It was on for a half. The damn plane was on for a half.
You know what I thought was a bit much? I'm live from Fifth Avenue, and there's obviously so many noises in the background, and I hear a helicopter, and lo and behold, I look up, and there's a helicopter, and I mean, it was just madness, and I believe that will continue until tomorrow.
The crowd was
calm,
and they were. Ted was there.
Yes, I know.
And the two of you agree that they were.
It wasn't calm. Ted
was Ted. Oh gosh, I was worried. I'd worried he could get arrested.
I know.
Because every once in a while he loses.
The mayor lets me out once in a while. It's always a risk. He always has to alert the local authorities, make sure somebody's watching. So we
and then we bring him back for the weekend. We bring him back.
Yeah, a weekend release.
About you, because Ted teased them that you were coming out there, so then they were desperately waiting.
Man, I've had some great occasions out there. Sometimes I go taunt the Trump hecklers.
Oh yeah, that's so
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
I'd go and ask them if they come out and want to debate. I would point to one. You want to have a debate? Come on, we'll have a debate right here.
That's got to be a lot of
Or,
fun.
or then they call me names. You know, they call me. They
Well, and what we
and I say, oh, yes. Your vocabulary makes it clear you're a graduate of a New York City public school.
Yeah. The mayor, that is the mayor's
Yeah.
response. Doesn't
Yeah,
come often.
where are they now? Where are they now?
Yeah.
Nationally, 27th in reading. Is that at 27th?
And then they don't know what to say, right? Because their first thing is
they
swore, and then the mayor calls them out for swearing, right? You got vocabulary, and then they
Whoa.
they stutter because they know they can't.
It's amazing when we stay calm and they just stand there when they already slewed their hatred. I
Oh my
got
goodness.
eggs thrown at me last week, and I did absolutely nothing. I just stood
Oh
there.
wow!
What would you? Oh, tell.
Tell us this story. Yeah.
This was downtown by the courthouse.
And because they
And
because of OAN.
So they pretended to be a fan, like I want to take a selfie, blah blah blah.
I've had that a few times. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
song.
always in the back of my head that these are fake fans.
Yeah.
It's New York. It's odd, but I'm respectful. You know,
Yeah.
want to take a selfie?
Yeah.
Sure, I'm going to charge you for it. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But we take a picture, and I'm about to go live, and thank God we weren't yet. But I texted my producers quickly, like I'm being harassed right now. So of course they said that live, and then my mom started calling me, like,
Right.
"What do you?"
Right.
But they just started throwing eggs,
They hit you?
socks, and it was on our feet, so didn't ruin the outfit, Mayor. But
Well, because you had though, right? It's in the hair. You could have. You
so
said thank you. I mean, you should have said thank you. Yeah, have a few more. I'll work into my hair.
I smiled and continued doing my job, and they started, hurling some cuss words out there, and then it was just amazing because when I had nothing to
Obviously,
say,
graduates of
course,
the New York City
course.
public schools taught by the Communist Teachers Union.
right, because when our kids are addicted to TikTok and
I do acknowledge that there are good public schools. There are some great public schools in New York City, some of the greatest in the country.
Mhm.
But then the vast number of them are terrible and witness the fact that the parents don't want the kids to go there. I mean, that's the best test of whether the schools are good or not. The parents and the majority of parents want their kids in some other school. That's why the charter schools are overwhelmed
yeah.
with applications, and the communists who run this state will not increase the number of charter
Wow.
schools.
Well, I'm also hearing that we're overburdened. These teachers have class sizes of, let's say, 30, 32, and now it's up to 42, 45 because we have so many illegals here. And
Also has to be because we have fewer teachers because we overall have less kids in public school.
right.
So they're teaching less kids and they're getting more money.
Right.
In other words, the teachers union used to always argue if you have scholarships or you have vouchers for private school, parochial school, you're taking money away from the public school. And I used to argue, no, you're not. The money goes with the kid. I mean, yeah, you don't get the money, but you don't have to educate the kid. But what do you tell me? It really doesn't cost any money to educate the kid. That's all phony. Yeah, well. So they now have something like, I don't know the exact number, but something like 700 or 800 less kids.
But they're getting the same.
And they have substantially more money.
But more money, yeah.
Substantially more money. So they're getting it's like the hospital workers I had to fire who were, there'd be a hospital with 1,200 beds and only 400 would be used. We had people taking care of empty beds. They would come in every day. They'd sit there. They'd read the newspaper and take care of it because they were patronage for the local congressman,
Right.
which is what happens in a crooked Democratic city. The mayor makes deals with the congressman.
So
You can imagine as a Republican mayor and former prosecutor who put a lot of these people in jail, I'm going to make a deal with them. They were even afraid to ask me. And then I fired them all.
Has the former president, has Trump's legal team come to you for any
I talk
advice?
to them all the time. But I can't tell you what I tell them.
And
I'm not privy to this conversation.
And I'm not allowed to practice law. So it's just general business advice.
Of course, the mayor and the president have enjoyed a over 30-year friendship, I would say, right? Maybe 40.
Tell him. Well, tell him you now.
I-
You're new to
I'm-
meeting the press. Tell him what a regular guy he is. People get so shocked with what a regular,
Oh,
normal guy he is.
if he was here right now with us, you know, I've gotten to know the mayor very well. It'd be very similar. He'd walk in, he'd say hi to everyone. He's the type of guy who wants to make sure everyone feels included and like they're part of the conversation.
He'll ask your. I'll tell you the other thing. It's absolutely.
Everybody.
He'll ask your advice too.
Yes. Oh, he came up and he's asked me right after certain things have happened, right? And I'm with the mayor, but he'll go out and look you in the eye and he'll ask, how did I do with that? How did that go?
Justin, you need to say, Justin, you think it'd be better for me if I have a mugshot or I don't?
Yeah.
Do you think the mugshot would get me more votes or less votes?
And he would just ask.
What do you think?
He would just ask you if you're.
What do you think about that idea that I get a mugshot and I put it on a T-shirt and I sell it and make millions? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So his
That's
wife
how-
actually said today that she believes, Alina Hoppe said that she believes the mugshot is totally unnecessary. Although I'm assuming, those of us that know Trump are assuming that he actually wants to do
I want
that.
to sell it on my show.
But she's saying it's unnecessary. A mugshot, you would know more, Mayor, but a mugshot is used to notify the public
Yeah.
of what you look like. Find me a person in the
Doesn't-
world that doesn't know what Donald Trump looks
Couldn't
like.
trace his hair.
Exactly. So
You just, I mean, just put out. You have pictures of them. You can take a picture you have already and just put it out. It's absurd.
is mugshot happening?
Good question.
That is a very good question. Well, they're not going to do the handcuffs, thank God.
Yes, we know that.
I think yes. I think.
and perp walk is on the minds of every viewer.
I tell you
right
what. I don't think there'll be a perp walk. I think he wants the mugshot. I mean, he'll make millions with it.
Free
He'll make
DJT sweatshirts the next day.
Imagine everybody would want him. I'd get one. I'd get
I
a
put it back.
T-shirt with him.
Every fraternity in
I would-
America would have that
I
mugshot by
promise,
Monday morning.
If I get one, I'll wear it on the show, and I'll get as many as I can to see if we can sell them to you. And we'll sell them at a make a deal. You know, we won't make a profit on it. Well, we'll make a little profit. Yeah. After all, we're not communists.
It's a little bit.
We're not communists.
I genuinely think we could bet that photograph would be one of the most circulated photographs in
It will be. Beautiful. Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
You know, a world history.
And it'll be in history books because they'll say this is the first time that this happened. And yeah. I think.
And then my other question is, so Mayor, if he's not handcuffed tomorrow, we know the famous Trump pose, right? What's to say he's not going to hold his thumb up and smile?
What's up? Now I'm not sure we're going to get to see him going in or coming out of the court.
Yeah, so that's so
I thought they were going to like take him into. I mean, there are a number of ways to get into that court, and you actually could go in the other court and go underground.
and I'm assuming that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and I think whatever. I mean, if they're really worried about security, they won't take him in the way they say they're going to take him in. They'll take him in some other way.
I mean, for who else are you that worried? I mean, yeah, it's you should have seen the barrage of security we had when Alvin Bragg left his office last week after announcing this.
He's probably scared out of his mind.
And I think he wanted the attention.
Yeah.
So that was just, I think, a glimpse of what it's going to take tomorrow.
Yes, and I mean, a lot of prosecutors get threats, but he doesn't prosecute criminals. He doesn't get any threats. He probably gets. They send him flowers at home.
Caitlin, and we're getting a lot of reaction. Everyone loves having Caitlin on the show. Before we let you go, how can our audience stay up with you, your social media, and will you please come back soon?
Yes, I will. Anytime. And my socials, my Instagram account is just my name. You have it there spelled out, Caitlin Sinclair. And you can get me on Twitter. That is C Sinclair TV. And definitely follow along our coverage tomorrow because we will.
She's interviewed me several times. She's great.
we will be
Great.
boots on the ground. Well,
She's great.
these guys are saying it, not me.
Good.
Well, thank you, Caitlin. Thank you for joining us this evening. And Mayor, we're gonna move right into our next guest because of timing. We have a big News Nation hit tonight, so we want to make sure we give all of our guests some time. We have a longtime friend of the show, and guest and friend of the show, we like to call her, Krisha Lenzo. Thank you for joining us, Krisha. native New Yorker and chairman of the New York GOP Metropolitan Club. Of course, the Met Club mayor is where you
Announced for mayor.
announced for mayor.
And who else did? Who else did? Who else did? Who else did?
And Mr. LaGuardia.
Yeah, my hero.
And that is why you announced.
Fiorello LaGuardia.
And that's why you announced there.
Absolutely.
And that's where we're also honoring the mayor.
And why don't now's a good time to
about this.
now's a good time to bring
I'm
that
gonna-
up. Let's plug that,
Yes,
Tricia.
I'm so honored to be here with you tonight.
Thank
But
you.
we are also honoring Mayor Giuliani because, of course, he is the premier mayor of our city, a premier politician. He is not just a politician. Obviously, he's someone who has really made a mark on this country, fighting for our fundamental freedoms. Clearly, we are in terrible times right now, what is occurring in our city and in our nation. But we are honoring him on April 17th at our Metropolitan Republican Club Gala. We're honoring him with the Theodore Roosevelt Award for service to the
Well, thank
Republican
you.
Party.
Thank you.
And yeah,
Thank you
it's
very
going to
much.
be a great event.
And what's the website people can go to get a ticket?
Yeah, so you can go to I think our best would be our Twitter. It's Met GOP Club. So you can follow us there and buy tickets.
So, are you going to participate in any protests, or?
Well,
my advice is not to. Even though, I mean, some people make the very valid point that it really is giving in and letting them take your First Amendment rights away. I still think that I just don't trust them. I don't trust them not to frame people, not to, say that you did something that you didn't do.
that's what they're trying to do with stifling freedom of speech. And certainly we have great correspondents like Caitlin, who,
Right.
they're on the ground covering this for us, thank goodness. And her story about getting egged, outside of the courthouse is horrific. But that's the whole point. They want to stop us from speaking out. And even with the potential, I mean, I'd love to hear your points on this, but the gag order that they're saying about President
I don't think that'll last.
You don't think it'll last?
I don't think that'll last. I mean, first of all, I don't know the judge. It would be a stupid thing to do for someone who's running for president. Second, everything's been said that can be. What they're going to do over the next whatever 6 months, year, 2 years, they're going to keep repeating the same things.
Sure.
There's nothing. Plus, you can't be in a glass house and not realize they leak like hell. I mean, it's just a simple fact is the DA's office and the grand jury leaks like hell. Nobody else has the material but the DA and the grand jury. The defense can't possibly leak it. They don't have it. So it comes from them, and it's illegal and it's a crime. And they commit the crime over and over again. However, how can you allow that to happen and then tie the guy's hands behind his back so they can leak illegally on me and I can't respond to it? That's absurd. I think any court will overturn that if this judge is so prejudiced that he grants that. Now, this judge handled believe he's the one who handled the Trump family, the business case, and he made some very strange rulings in that case. Very, very odd rulings. Didn't seem like he was down the middle.
It's been ridiculous the way they've coupled together the misdemeanors and tried to turn them into a felony. And the Democrats also should be coming out. I mean, at least we were talking about Andrew Cuomo coming out and saying this is misjustice, but I don't really even understand some of the Republicans who are not standing behind our president at this moment. Clearly, the Republican Party is fractured, as we know. I'm, part of the Republican Club in New York, but every single Republican at this moment in time should be joining forces to speak up about what is occurring. And unfortunately, we're not.
You're right. You're right. There should be unity. This is one of those things that it's easy to get behind. There is no question that this is a politically inspired phony prosecution. When you look at the fact that it's already been turned down several times, it's very old, it goes way back, and it's conduct that, even if it's true, is generally ignored. It's not, we didn't prosecute Clinton for much worse than this.
Sure. John Edwards, as you mentioned.
John
Edwards
was prosecuted but acquitted.
But right, okay. But there's precedent that he was acquitted, and now, as you said, there's just fundamental flaws in this case. But with Trump, everything that's black is white, upside down. It's a circus.
So this Sonny Hostin idiot who's on The View. So she was on The View, this idiot moron. Poor. She's probably a graduate of one of those schools. So she said, it's wonderful that the president can't pardon himself for state crimes. Well, first of all, idiot, he's not the president, right?
Right.
But I mean, maybe she knows something we don't know yet. But he's going to be the president.
She's a premonition.
Yeah, but he's not being prosecuted for state crimes. The felony is a state felony. It's a federal felony. That would be fascinating if they allowed him to be prosecuted for it by a state district attorney, which seems to me to be just a contradiction of jurisdiction. Just don't have a state prosecutor doesn't have jurisdiction to prosecute a federal crime. But if they let him do it, then he could pardon himself because it's a federal crime. She's a total idiot. But that whole show, how does that show exist? I would think people would get sick to their stomach watching it.
I can't answer that.
All I do is see clips of it, and they're like, it's almost like those things, those reels that you see on Facebook of animals fighting with each other.
The bigotry, though, also, and the anti-Semitism that comes out of that show is really incredulous as well.
But
Because
they
they get away with it, and then
Yeah.
they, of course, attack the Republicans. So that's my issue with the show. I think it's just there's
So-
a lot said there.
So Lindsey Graham. So I'm picking on the show on purpose
Yeah.
because Lindsey Graham made a very, very good point, and here we'll just play it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay, Lindsey. We'll cut you off. So Lindsey says, "What's behind this is hatred for Trump," and they say, "Of course not. It's not." But now listen to here's another beauty, Anna Navarro. How about this one? This is really extremely kind and sweet and ladylike. You're not supposed to say lady anymore. There's some woman, some guy didn't get hired for a job because he used the word lady, and that showed that he was a misogynist. Anna Navarro. Here, listen to Anna. Listen how kind she is.
Some people were gone, start their new life in Miami, and I was thinking, they now can give their children the distinction of having matching mugshots for both of their grandfathers. Yeah.
Oh.
Whether you want Charlie Kushner or Donald Trump mugshot, if you are Jared and Ivanka's child.
Isn't that nice? Wishing that for the kids?
Really.
For the kids.
Yeah, so the kids can have two mugshots. Jared's father was prosecuted by Charlie, by Chris Christie rather, for really what was a family kind of a situation, and Trump. First of all, we didn't even know there's going to be a mugshot. He hasn't been convicted of anything except in her warped mind. But imagine wishing that for the kids. You got to be a sick person. And that's what I think a lot of these left wingers have become. They've become very, very sick people.
And they don't understand the rule of law, as you started the program off with. They're very much like communism, communists,
Right.
in that they have someone in mind and they're looking to find the crime. I mean, that's the history lesson in that. That's what they're trying to do, and you have to prove your innocence, which is totally against the rule of law.
Yeah.
I mean, Nancy Pelosi.
She came out and said it, right?
Right. She's
Good old Nancy, who
So
doesn't have an original body part left on her face. Did you know that? I bet you didn't know that she doesn't have an original body part on her face. Have you ever seen her right after the operations when she tries to talk?
wouldn't notice the difference.
Yeah, here you go. Like this, right?
Her face doesn't move. That's what.
Pray.
Thanks for joining us. America's Mayor.
Well, if she were praying for me, I would send her a little note. Please don't. I can't imagine you're in terribly good shape with him since you want to kill 7, 8, 9 month old babies. I mean, I just don't think. If it's okay, would you find somebody else to pray for the queen? She's after all, she's the queen of insider trading.
That's right.
So, Krisha, before we let you go, we're on a tight timeline tonight. We have a tight exit. Why don't you share more about April 17th and what's happening? And so folks that may want to check it out can check it out. Of course, that is the 2023 Met Gala.
So we are so excited to honor Mayor Giuliani at this gala. It is representative of all of our constituents in New York in terms of the Republican Party and also the members of the Met Club. The mayor is going to be receiving the honor of the Theodore Roosevelt Award for service to the Republican Party. I mean, we can't think of a better person. We are just so incredibly happy to have you join us, and you fought for us. So it's the least we could do.
We keep fighting, and
Yeah.
we all keep fighting together. That's the main thing. We got to stick together. They stick together and do crooked things.
Right.
We should stick together and do honest and honorable things. We should, and somehow we don't stick together as well. And but we have a lot of good people.
We do.
We have, and we're getting more. I think it's
so
growing.
too.
I really think it's growing.
Yes. I pray.
So I've got to let you hear Andrew Cuomo because there's an expression, the pot calling the kettle black. Listen to this one. He's talking in a church. Oh, boy.
I don't know if you've seen him. He's out there, he's waving a baseball bat. He's threatening death and destruction. He's like a character from the old South. He thinks he's Bull Connor from the old South. Oh, sir, your first name may be Bull, but your last name is not Connor. I know Don.
Ha ha ha.
I have not heard that one, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's first of all, let's go through the series of lies here. First of all, the baseball bat picture, as was pointed out by Ted, goes back to when he was in the White House as the president, celebrating Made in America, and it's a Made in America bat, and he was holding it up with a group of other people with things that were made in America. That was taken by the publication that wrote the story, and it was put next to a picture of Bragg. Trump did not do that. When Trump tweeted out the article, he just had the text. And as Ted pointed out, being more expert at this than I am, the picture went along with the text. And Trump didn't know the picture was there until later in the day. That's one. He never threatened death and destruction. He warned about it. He warned about it like we just warned about it. Like we just warned about something like this could cause death and destruction. The same thing that we just said. So that's another lie told by Cuomo. But why would you expect Cuomo to tell the truth? The other day was the anniversary of his piling all those old people into places that they would surely die. But nobody ever points out why. But with Cuomo, follow the money. Because the nursing homes were his biggest contributor ever. And the nursing homes didn't want to lose the blood money for the people dying in the nursing homes. Meanwhile, he had 1,000 beds that were given to him by President Trump.
Refused to use them.
And another 1,000 beds given to him by the federal government, President Trump, at Javits Center. He utilized about 5 of them. Just let those people die. And if you didn't know that elderly people were the only people really vulnerable to it, then you were a real fool. I mean, he spent most of his time writing his stupid book, or he had other people doing it. But I mean, there's another thing.
Before the pandemic was over.
I mean, so that's another one of those very kind Democrats. I mean, and now he wants to make this guy wants to make a comeback. I guess he didn't kill enough old people. Wants to see if I can get a few more.
Well, thank you, Krisha. We want to get to one last guest. She drove all the way here from Philadelphia. So we want to thank Krisha for coming on again. She's a longtime friend of the show.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see her again real soon. So thank you, Krisha. So Mayor, we're winding down here. we wanted to invite Megan on for just a few minutes here.
Okay.
She wants to share with
Megan.
us her own story of being here in New York, and she has a very interesting.
Come on, Megan.
story.
How are you, dear?
Very good to see you again.
Good to see you.
So I have a story. During the pandemic, obviously the restaurants in Philly weren't open yet. So New York was first to open the
Really?
restaurants. So
Well, I thought we were late.
me and my girlfriends, we want to come to New York, have a good time. I stay in a hotel. There's no valet at the hotels. You have to check your bag. I go to get the car. I come back. The bags are gone. Call the police. 3 hours takes for a police officer to get there. I end up getting a letter from the DA of New York that says he, she preferred pronouns. Now, I don't mind like whatever it is that you want to do. I just don't understand what that has to do with the crime. Now, at this point, I knew what the person's name is now. I look up on Facebook. They're selling all of the stuff that they're stealing from people on Facebook. I'm actually friendly.
Including your stuff?
Yes, I'm friendly with the the detective. He told me the person's been arrested 11 times before. Obviously, he does his due diligence. The prosecutor, they just don't prosecute.
And they let do
14 times they were arrested for the same crime, but because they're transsexual, like I don't understand why we would even.
Oh, well,
put
in
that
that case, well, Bragg is considerate. He doesn't want to interrupt their ability to make money with a long time in being processed. So he processes them very quickly, and that doesn't cut into their theft time.
My issue with Facebook.
I mean, if they had to spend 5-6 hours waiting to get arraigned, I mean, they might not be able to steal from enough people that day, right?
Right.
So he gets it down to 2 hours. That gives him 3 more hours to steal from people. I mean, Bragg knows what he's doing. He's not stupid. He may be pro-criminal, but he's not stupid. He makes sure they get maximum amount of time.
I mean, they didn't prosecute this person at all. They said unless they come to court on their own recognizance, they're not going to do anything. If I'm a criminal, I'm not just going to say, I'm going to wake up today and I think I'm going to turn myself in.
Well, you're lucky they didn't bang you over the head with a bat or something.
That's true.
Every once in a while, they do that just for the hell of it. But they figure Bragg's not going to do much about that either, I mean, maybe they have to wait an extra hour for that one.
Last week, while this was
Oh, we let somebody out. Yeah.
that, and then
That's horrible.
And they let him out. Yeah. Well, they don't want to traumatize the guy. They don't want to traumatize him. I mean, my gosh, I mean, this guy, Bragg, the fact that he's there, forget Trump. The fact that he's there is a living testament to how crooked this state is, how ultimately crooked it is. I used to say once when I was very young and before I was a U.S. attorney in New York and before I guess I was just leaving the Justice Department the first time. So I wanted to be U.S. attorney in Albany because I could put the entire assembly in jail. Half. Wouldn't have been all. Half the assembly. I was exaggerating and I shouldn't have said that. But a lot of those people did go to jail. There was a time in which just about every mayor in New Jersey was in jail. Remember that? You remember that, Justine, right? Every mayor. If you're a mayor in New Jersey, you're a mayor for a year or two. You make all the money you can, then you go to jail for a couple of years, and you keep the money.
All of this is just
You're from Philadelphia.
Talk to us about Philly.
I got to tell you.
about what I'm dealing with.
I'm going to tell you.
Well, no, I'm not South Philly. I just live there.
So yeah, talk about what is it like in Philadelphia? There's a similar situation with a rogue DA down
You
there.
got Krasner.
Krasner.
Talk to us about
Krasner
that.
was the original. He was the original Bragg.
Yeah, as I told you before, the person that I was dating for 3.5 years that was murdered within the first 4 months.
Yeah.
And how that played out. I mean, he was stabbed in public. Everybody saw it. The person that did it was African American. Sean was white. They took it as an opportunity to make him the sacrificial lamb. And that's, I feel like in 2018 was when I first started to notice, wait, the way they're playing this all out is very political. It's not right at all.
What happened to him?
Krasner and the mayor were actually during an active trial taking this person to colleges talking about prison reform. That should be illegal on every level.
Did he go to jail?
He did not go to jail. Krasner kept withholding like evidence and then kept reducing charges right before the trial, which eventually blew it up.
Hard to believe that,
It
isn't
was
it?
horrible.
Yeah, I mean,
You just have to hope that
if you didn't live
real life.
if you didn't live through it, you wouldn't believe this. And so in 2021, I think, Philadelphia set a record for more murders than ever before in its history. Just think of how old that city is. No, that year, more people were slaughtered.
And he'll go on the news and say that there's no crime problem. He actually will say that. It's
What
insane.
a horrible thing to do to the families
It's
that have
horrible
lost
that
loved ones.
the victims' families do not get the justice that they need. It's hard enough that they already lost their loved one.
And then, you know, the murder is one thing, but the other crimes are the ones that drive people out of a city because you can't have a business, you can't you can't operate, you're afraid of the schools. So who's going to live there? Who the heck is going to live there? You know who's turning a little? I've noticed Bill Maher is turning a little. Why don't we listen to Bill Maher? This one is funny.
He's going to surrender on Tuesday. He will be arrested. He will be fingerprinted. And everybody at MSNBC is actually the same question. Is it wrong to jerk off to a mugshot?
Oh my God.
I didn't say that.
Yes, I can't believe.
I didn't say
And of
that.
course, Mayor, we have coming up here. We usually now go into soccer time, right?
Yeah.
And we really enjoy our soccer time. The mayor really likes soccer time. But tonight we have a news van waiting for us downstairs. So we're going to make our way downstairs for a live interview on a network on News Nation. So check your local listings. We'll be on with Dan Abrams live here in just a few minutes.
Mhm.
And then, of course, tomorrow.
What time am I actually on, though? Isn't it
9.
30?
No, 9:20.
Oh, well, they can wait a little.
Which means so what? 9:15. So they keep moving, and they have been calling me. Of course, we're not going to give everything away here, but one of their producers is an old producer friend of ours from a different network.
Okay.
So we want to be extra nice.
We're
We
nice.
have some extra time here. We're in soccer time. Right now, we have a very lively chat. Folks are asking a lot of questions
We put
tonight ahead
Justine
of
on for a
tomorrow.
minute.
Justine, have you been on? Oh, we haven't had Justine on yet.
We'll put Justine on.
So we have just a minute with a longtime friend of the show. We all know Justine.
So what do you think, Justine? What's going to happen tomorrow? Is it going to stay? Is everybody going to be disciplined and not fall for the traps that are going to be set for them? Meaning the Republican, the Trump side. Are they going to? I mean, it is hard. I mean, it's hard not to be trapped when you're in one of these situations.
It really is. And I'm an optimistic person, but I think that there's always a chance that we could fall for some traps. I'm policy chair of the New York Young Republicans Club, and we're holding a rally tomorrow, a peaceful rally. Marjorie,
Where?
right outside the courthouse. And
Walk. Be careful.
thank you.
Just be careful. I'm just thinking of the people like that guy they showed on Tucker Carlson a couple of weeks ago. He was inside the Capitol for 3 minutes. Luckily, there was a camera on him for every moment. He walked in with a group of people, did not break in, and the cops were right there. Cops let him in. He talked to 3 people, didn't break anything, didn't do anything, and went back out. They arrested him, dressed up like Gestapo, the way they dress up with the guns and the stuff like that. And they originally subjected him to 20 years in jail, possible sentence. And then they dropped it to a year in jail. Now he has, if he wants to, if he doesn't want to go to trial and face 20 years, he has to take a year in jail. He did absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing. Didn't do anything wrong. It's a complete It's like that. It's like that clown who the Cunan king or whatever he was, the king of Cunan or
Sherman.
Yeah, it's like him. I mean, he was completely escorted by cops every place he went. They could have arrested him anytime they wanted. Their lying excuse was, oh, it would create a riot if they arrested him. There was nobody around to riot. They were alone with him in large hallways where there was nobody anywhere in the hallway. They were in little spaces with him. They unlocked the door for him to get into the chamber because he couldn't get the door. And not only that, they held it open. And they put the guy in jail for 6 months, almost break him. Guy almost has a nervous breakdown.
Go figure.
And they were laughing at him. The cops were laughing at him.
The funny thing is, well, it's not so funny. It's pretty awful that the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, he recently in February, he defended letting someone out of prison after 6 months after he tried to murder a Jewish person in the streets, screaming at him, "You dirty Jew," beating him up, pummeling him. Alvin Bragg let that guy out.
What, did he have a reason?
He said, well, he was only there beating him up for a little bit. There was another mob beating this poor guy up as well. So, we'll go easy on him. And what really stuck out for me.
And he probably had a record.
Oh, yes. And then he said, the criminal said that he would do it again.
Oh, I remember the case. I now remember the case.
Wow.
I remember the
So
case.
sad.
That's who we have sitting in judgment of the former president of the United States. And for the first time in American history, we have an ex-president or president being indicted by a complete criminal like this. A DA who does that is a criminal. That's being a criminal. It's also getting people killed.
He should be indicted. But our district attorney
Should be disbarred.
should be.
God forbid the woke bar association would take action against him. Oh,
Oh no! Oh, that would be a scandal.
we can't do that. No.
Terms
We-
of
we-
use for
nobody will invite us to cocktail parties.
Oh no, the horror.
Oh,
It seems like our Department of Justice, all of our 3-letter federal organizations, District Attorney's Office, all of our leadership, they are becoming like the CCP.
Mhm.
They are using the same tactics of our number one enemies to silence our own people. To now, in this case, let people get killed, let people get murdered on the streets every day. Oh, they don't need to go to jail because if you jailed them, you're considered racist.
yeah. If you jail them, well, first of all, you'll be interfering in their flow of income, selling drugs, stealing from people. I mean, you do 2 days in jail, you can lose money. They want to make sure that these people make the maximum amount of money, and nobody seems to care that we have record numbers of overdose deaths. And by the way, the main victims here are 70 to 80% African Americans,
Exactly.
which is a damn tragedy.
And usually the people who are making these laws are rich white liberals.
Yeah, and they just don't care. Well, after all, it is the party of slavery, so
That is true.
you would expect that.
And we have, Mayor, we got to get to our interview, but we have one more special guest we want to
Okay.
bring on.
Let's go.
Justine, thank you. We're going to wrap it around. He comes to us all the way from Phoenix, documentary filmmaker, 6'7", Kevin.
Wow. You thought he was a basketball player.
Well, this is how he introduced himself.
Almost don't fit. Here. Hold.
Come on in.
Just lean forward.
There we go. I got to do one of these right here.
How
So tell us.
about yourself.
So I'm a documentary filmmaker at Turning Point, and
Oh,
right now I'm working on a documentary about homelessness, and specifically it's in Arizona, but I know you got a lot of that here in New York. And I was wondering your opinion about homelessness right now, the legal perspective on it.
sure. I'll give you my articles I've written on it. I've written several articles on homelessness, and when I was mayor, I pretty much, I can't say completely eliminated it, but got it down to almost nothing.
How'd you do that?
And I did it. It's somewhat complicated, but I did it this way. Really, I put together teams of police officers and social workers, and I had them approach people that were staying on the street and wouldn't leave. And I said, you have a choice. You can come with me and we'll take you to a shelter and we'll evaluate you and we'll figure out what's wrong with you. Or you got to get up, pick up your stuff and leave because you're not allowed to sleep here. You're blocking the sidewalks. And also, you're a health threat because you're going to urinate here and you're going to defecate here, and you're going to spread disease. So we have the right to move you. And after a while, my constant doing of this and not backing off, despite the New York Times criticizing me, and got them to go to shelters and get evaluated. And either we put them in a mental hospital or we sent them for drug rehabilitation. And the few people that just needed help getting a job, we got them a job. And the people who didn't want to cooperate had to go to New Jersey because they weren't going to be allowed to sleep in New York. I just declared in civilized world for the last three to 400 years, we don't let people sleep on streets because that's one of the ways the plague started. So, gosh, the one thing we are is at least minimally civilized, and that's sort of a minimal rule of civilization. And one time after 9/11, when I was paying attention to that and I couldn't pay attention, some of the homelessness came back, and they were all on a church, Presbyterian church. They were all out front of a Presbyterian church, and they were freezing. And I picked them all. If it goes below a certain degree, the mayor has the authority to take them, just take them off the street. So I took them all off the street and I put them in a shelter. The minister held a press conference condemning me for being inhumane. So I held a press conference and I offered the minister all of them back if he put them inside the church and not leave them outside freezing. And the minister said he couldn't do that because his lawyer said they'd have too much liability.
Wow.
That's very Christian, isn't it? Yeah, really
Very
Christian.
loving.
Thank you. Thank you. And that is the typical, what we call limousine liberal, like the group up in Martha's Vineyard, right?
Bunch of NIMBYs.
Martha's Vineyard is a sanctuary city until somebody comes there wanting sanctuary, and then they throw them out because they don't like their color. They're too brown.
Kevin, I want to put your name up on here. What's your full name?
Send them somewhere.
It's Kevin Kalb, Kalb. Thanks for throwing it up there.
KALB, Kevin Kalb. Any relation to
I wish.
Cobb? That was Cobb, right? Kevin Cobb.
Yeah, Kevin Kalb, the quarterback. Yeah.
Quarterback. Started some games for the Eagles and
I was thinking of Ty Cobb.
Ty Cobb, Detroit Tigers.
Maybe a little more famous than the guy that threw a few passes for the Eagles.
Yeah, Ty Cobb.
Ty Cobb, one of the greatest baseball players ever.
Detroit.
Yeah, one of the greatest baseball players ever.
Kevin, before we let you go, we're on a tight schedule, but we wanted to get you on. Why don't you give us just in a minute or two, share more about your work as a documentary filmmaker, and kind of your knowledge of New York and your impressions of the city.
Maybe you should sit here, and I should go downstairs and do the interview.
Sure.
All right.
Hey, thank you for your time.
You stay where you are.
Okay.
Stay where you are.
That was very fun, everybody. Thank you for having me. Oh, okay.
Okay, good. Let's go down and go in the little truck. Who wants to go on?
Rudy's place here is awesome. I was able to walk around, look at paintings, pictures. He's got some amazing paintings around here.
Hello. About what you're doing.
Mayor, America's mayor.
Mayor does this interview. We have some fill-ins.
Yeah, no, but actually, that must be. I mean, Turning Point is doing such great work. We had Savannah who had to run, it seems like, but her videos are pretty much better than some of the mainstream medias some days. So you do longer form documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And what?
And I've filmed with Savannah as well. We were just down there today, interacting with all the people, all the protesters that were there for the Trump indictment. And it was cool to see how Savannah works because it's inspiring. She got me to start making documentaries. And how she was doing it, she said, look at all the mainstream media. They're all pointed in one direction, and they all have their things lined up, pointed in that direction, faced away from the people. She goes, turns around, and talks to the people and goes around and interacts with all the people around there.
Yeah.
None of the mainstream news was doing that.
No, and in fact, it was interesting because I was there since 6 o'clock this morning, and left a few hours ago. But the amount of, of course, it's Fifth Avenue, so it's tourist central quite often. The amount of tourists that actually stood there and stopped to observe, watch, witness what was going on. Um, it was just it was astonishing to me. And of course, the entire day that I was there, like I said, from early morning, the mainstream media, yeah, they had their cameras pointed at Trump Tower.
Mhm.
It was probably, yeah, folks like you guys, us. I was across the street, Kevin.
Yeah, that's where I was too.
Across the street, actually interacting with those people, asking them questions.
Mm.
Why are you here? What's your message? Like
Mhm.
the job of a reporter when your boots on the ground, when you're out in the field, from my understanding, as a young reporter, is to do just that.
Exactly.
Of course, also we did our live hits and brought our coverage to our viewers the whole day. But yeah, that's a really interesting point. It's a really
Yeah, that's the philosophy I'm taking with documentary filmmaking, because
Mhm.
I used to just be making music videos, commercials, things like that. But I saw a gap in that people weren't going. It wasn't boots on the ground journalism. So I wanted to go there. So I've been going, talking to the homeless. I slept out there in a tent alongside them to get the lifestyle, to understand
Yeah.
the psychology. And I feel like that's what we're missing. Everybody sits behind a desk and talks about their opinion, but we aren't going out there and talking to the Americans.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to do with
And
my
that's what this is
documentary.
about, right? The American
Yeah.
people. That's what this movement is about. America first,
Mhm.
and really getting those stories told. And I sit there sometimes, and I think we've been all having these like moments where we take a step back because this industry has changed so much. And I've had actual breakdowns where I like have to remind myself why I got into this. It wasn't to scream and yell and fight with Democrats and not be able to express my opinion. It was to actually share those stories. And just when people ask me, actually, you'll like this, my 5-year or 10-year goal, I always say that my eventual goal is to work on long form documentary.
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
really feel like your day-to-day 24/7 coverage, it's you move from one headline to the next. Even look at the school shooting we just had, and the media hasn't covered that. Maybe they spent, I don't know, 20 minutes in their whole coverage, in a week on topics that so matter. So I really feel like when you actually cover documentaries and longer form pieces, when you actually get to understand the subjects and understand the story, and it's so amazing what you're doing. So
Hey, right on.
I thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mayor. Maybe we can make a documentary
And
sometime.
Yeah,
Caitlin, why don't you sign us off? Thank you for this little guest hosting spot here
Yes,
this evening. Who knows? Maybe you're auditioning for a spot you're not yet even aware exists. But why don't you send everyone out on what I guess we would call this Indictment Day Eve?
yes.
And send everyone out. What we like to do with the mayor is to send everybody off with a message, something to take and carry over into tomorrow.
Well, I don't quite think that we understand the magnitude of this moment that we are witnessing. Just standing there all day today, you had to take a step back and wow, where are we in American history? So this will change the landscape of history forever, of American political history forever. So I hope everyone's tuning in tomorrow and really understands that message about where we are and the magnitude of this moment. And just take a second to take it in wherever, if you're watching, if you're a viewer, if you're going to be boots on the ground, reporting, filming, talking to folks. Again, I mentioned earlier that this, to so many New Yorkers, this is troubling, not from a political perspective, not from red versus blue. This is troubling because this is not what this country was founded on. So those core principles, I guess we can be reminded of tomorrow. Indictment Eve. That is right.